A door opens when trust breaks. Love here tastes sharp, not sweet, like winning something you never wanted. Each choice cuts deep, marks skin, stays forever. Step close. The air hums with what went wrong in 90-Day Fiancé. Pretty words cover rotten roots, lies spread slow, then everything falls. Forget updates. This runs thicker than gossip. A start built on laughter slowly gives way to silence. Where promises stood firm, cracks now spread without warning. One moment everything feels certain, then doubt slips in like a shadow at dusk. Joy fades while unspoken words pile up between them. Each decision made here leaves marks too deep to ignore. By the end, even memories feel foreign. Suddenly, there he stood, Gino Palazzolo, not broken, not running, but still. Years of noise, shame, fights that played out loud had led here. Now people saw someone different. Not the punchline, but a man remade. Beside him, Natalie Mordovtseva shone without trying, sure in her skin, eyes fixed on what came next. Their bond, once picked apart by strangers online, now held something solid. Not just words or moments, but rings, vows, papers signed. A door closed behind them. Another opened wide. The crowd watched closely, some amazed, others stunned into silence, as if grace had slipped through when no one was looking. It was hard not to see their reunion like a scene from a film. Grins came where sadness once sat. Words of hope traded places with old fights. What happened before slipped far away, barely noticeable now. Those who backed them cheered quietly, while doubters stepped back without sound. Suddenly, love looked like the only answer that mattered. Peace showed in Gino's eyes. Strength settled on Natalie's face. Side by side, they stood firm, shaped by every storm until this quiet triumph arrived. A win so rare, it felt almost unreal. Hope showing up again, when nobody expected it. Hidden beneath each flawless image is something real, never shown by the lens. Wedding chimes echoed for Gino and Natalie, yet miles away, something else unraveled without notice. Not celebrated, just gone quiet. Jasmine Pineda, who once meant everything to Gino, faced her own storm alone. Healing took time. Then came Matt Brownie's. He offered stillness after chaos. Things seemed steady. Solid. This quiet felt unlike the mess she'd lived through. For Jasmine, it wasn't only love, this time, it mended. Quiet did that. Healing shows what's broken long before it fixes anything. When Gino married Natalie, cracks spread through Jasmine's life. From afar it seemed steady, yet secrets beneath pulled it apart. Her smile vanished. Words turned sharp, then silent. Matt's place in her tomorrow dissolved like mist. One pair raised glasses to always. Another balanced on a breaking point, blind to the fall. This is the moment things shift. This tale does not track victories or defeats. Timing shapes it instead. Decisions arrive early sometimes, late at others. Some affections endure, others fade without warning. While laughter rang through a kitchen, silence tightened around someone else's heart. Every time we peer deeper, one truth sharpens. Those instants weren't isolated at all. Bound long before they met, drawn together like currents meeting in a storm, each pulse echoing through chests that couldn't stay still. Then came something that left supporters stunned. Something cracked the idea people were all heading ahead. Far below the surface of this tale, clues about the union, and its unraveling, begin to show themselves. A quiet shift happens when hidden things start to speak. When the last bit of glitter dropped and the applause dimmed at Gino and Natalie's wedding, a quiet unease slipped into the people standing nearby. Fans saw perfection on display. For the couple, this moment meant eternity beginning. Still, even bright stories carry hidden corners. Victory often arrives hand in hand with quiet uncertainty. When joy feels strongest, that is when stillness may break without warning. Gino, who people used to mock for rushing into things without thinking, now appeared to be living a life that actually fit him. Not long ago, Natalie wouldn't have imagined standing by his side, yet here she was, glowing, steady, sure of him. Quiet evenings with flickering candles, trips to far-off places, moments of joy tucked inside plush hotel rooms, these weren't staged. They felt real. Those around them, some strangers, others close, couldn't help but notice how they moved together, like something rare had taken root. Yet beneath the grins and staged appearances, tiny mismatches started showing up. A pause too long here, a forced laugh there, each one whispering that something unseen was tightening its grip. Quiet exchanges snapped mid-sentence. Tension curled around corners where nobody looked directly. The air thickened without announcement. Off in her corner of the world, trouble brewed quiet but deep. Years of letdowns had worn her down, yet Matt seemed different somehow. A steady presence, soft-spoken, giving off calm like slow breath after storm. Weeks passed where hope crept in, fragile, blinking in sunlight. Safety began to taste real on her tongue, sharp and sweet. Still, deep down, quiet doubts started to chip away at what seemed unbreakable. At first just a word misplaced here, a silence stretched there, soon enough they turned into sharp exchanges. Each small conflict fed another worry, then another, until trust didn't feel automatic anymore. While she'd stood firm when everything else fell apart before, this time her strength began to waver like glass hit by frost. One moment everything felt normal. Then came those little gaps, hours when Matt wasn't reachable. Replies arrived late, scattered like crumbs. Instead of talking, he'd shift topics or stare past her shoulder. At first, Jasmine told herself it was just pressure from work, maybe a rough patch. Silence grew where words used to be. Hope flickered inside her, a quiet wish for their future to be real. Trust didn't come easy, yet she reached for it anyway. Then came the murmurs, soft at first, that swelled like old wounds reopening, pulling her back to when Gino left pieces of her behind. Gino returned to the spotlight, met with cheers across the globe, though inside, under the crisp suit, nerves still hummed low. Smiles arrived on cue during appearances, shaped more by practice than ease. Offstage, quiet seconds stretched longer than they seemed, filled with hesitation. Could he handle what came next, or did fresh thrills simply cover up older worries? Those thoughts stayed silent, circling just out of view, felt most clearly by those who knew him best. Suddenly, the quiet movement of truth started showing itself. Though Jasmine fought to keep believing, her reality seemed to split apart at the edges. Because of Matt's distant behavior, odd silences, decisions without reason, everything built an unspoken chaos. Out of nowhere came memories of being hurt before, abandoned once too often. Slowly it dawned on her, maybe faith was given where it didn't belong, perhaps those hopes were breaking down like sand underwater. This split came without warning. While one pair glowed under applause and shares online, the second sank into silence, weighed down by something few could see. Their separate tracks moved at different speeds, yet pointed toward collision. Viewers scrolled, unaware their screens held fragments of the same broken mirror. Joy on one side cast longer shadows on the other. When it comes to love, timing decides most outcomes. Just when someone finally feels whole, somebody else begins crumbling. That first week after Gino and Natalie said their vows should have sparkled. Smiles flashed during group pictures, voices rose in cheer, tomorrow looked wide open, everything seemed just right. Yet when the guests left, reality settled like dust on furniture. Inside those quiet rooms, calm didn't last. Happiness tugged at him, sure, but worry pulled harder. Still haunted by old errors, years under the spotlight never really faded. Unreturned messages, held back calls, each one lit another small fire inside, growing uncertainty. Natalie glowed, settled into being someone's spouse now, yet couldn't shake small inner shakes. Drawn by Gino's smooth voice, gentle talk, also the quiet belief this bond might actually last. Yet affection, truth told, rarely lives only in laughter or big romantic acts. More often it hides in honesty, open hearts, standing side by side when things get rough. Over time though, his sporadic quietness started smelling like hidden stories, almost ripe to spill. Jasmine's life started falling apart before she even saw it coming. Not long after, the person she trusted most showed signs of breaking down himself, Matt, who promised safety, now slipping through the fingers of truth. At first, tiny falsehoods floated by, gaps in time, half answers, tales that didn't line up when checked again. Then, like glass hit by stone, the whole picture cracked open. He'd kept someone else close, hidden in plain sight, all while holding her hand. A stranger called Victoria, someone Jasmine didn't know, had already been close to Matt while he was drawing near to her. That truth hit like weight, sudden and heavy. Her pain arrived fast, sharp in the chest. What she thought was real love turned out hollow, false underneath. Falling apart inside, Jasmine felt what Gino must have when it happened to him. One life echoes another, caught in loops of affection followed by sudden endings. There she stayed, motionless, hearing old words again, phrases, pauses, glances slipped past her notice until now. Truth arrived slow, lies shaped both turns. Not just at his hands, then hers too, but Matt's after that. Heavy air filled the room, each breath harder than the last, as if clouds had moved indoors and refused to leave. Still in the dark about Jasmine's pain, Gino wrestled with thoughts that wouldn't let go. Not liberty, but duty came with marriage. True, he cared for Natalie deeply, yet old errors kept whispering at night. Each choice weighed heavy, like stepping on thin ice. One wrong move might crack what little trust they'd glued back together. When the glow of being newly married dimmed, weight pressed in, money worries, private battles, silent tensions piling up where joy once stood. Jasmine felt it again, the slow crack of something splitting open when she learned about Matt. Fury sat first, then disbelief slid in beside it, followed by a heavy kind of ache that refused to name itself. Talking to him brought no light, just echoes of excuses that scraped more than soothed. What once held them together now dangled loose, frayed beyond fixing. After what happened with Gino, years gone, yet still fresh, that wound reopening made the air thinner somehow. This time hurt different, deeper, because she thought she'd earned better. The past never stayed where she left it. Instead, it crept forward wearing new names. While everyone looked on, posts exploded across online platforms. Supporters picked their favorites, arguments sparked up overnight, yet feelings spilled far beyond private moments. What showed up was Gino rising high, Natalie falling deep in affection, Jasmine cracking under loss, Matt hiding secrets, all streaming minute by minute. Joy tangled with collapse. One pair winning, another unraveling, lives linked not just by chance but exposed nerves and endless eyes watching close. Yet here it started. Once truth surface, fallout follows fast, no pause, just force. Shattered trust shows up quietly. Bonds stretch thin under pressure. Decisions once hidden ripple outward, touching each person caught inside. Then silence speaks louder than words ever did. Weeks passed. A whirlwind swallowed Gino, Natalie, Jasmine, then Matt. No escape from eyes watching. Online spaces crackled, filled with guesses, arguments, wild ideas about what might be true. Images lingered under digital microscopes. Captions got picked apart. Smiles caught on camera sparked essays. What used to be private now lived in public view. Moments once private, heartache, triumphs, hidden truths, now flickered on screens for anyone to see. Love twisted into lies, then maybe something better, unfolding under the weight of endless watching, every gasp and silence making it feel heavier. Still holding on to each other, Gino and Natalie faced their strained bond like weathered stone under constant rain. Each glance at his screen left Gino tense, expecting words from lenders, old pals, maybe unknown voices calling out his missteps. Choices about money, once clear enough, now bent under heavy outcomes. Yet right there beside him, Natalie stood firm, softly pointing back to the promises they made. Even when everyone else hesitated, she stood firm in her faith about who he was turning into. Not because it made sense to others, but because she saw what they missed. Through long stretches of pressure and sideways glances, their bond bent without breaking. Now came the ache, sharp and rising. Once Jasmine understood what Matt had really done. He hadn't just lied, he'd made it visible, letting whispers spread through every circle they knew. People reached out, attempting kindness, yet nothing touched the hollow where certainty used to live. Each moment they shared before now twisted into something false. While sitting with the wreckage, one thing became clear: she required truth. An ending, then steps forward, slow or fast, didn't matter. Yet trust crumbles fast, healing slow. Her hopes for joy had faded, replaced by the raw edge of starting over, this time shaped by loss. Yet Matt found himself tangled in questions too. When news broke about Victoria, anger flared everywhere, out loud and behind closed doors. People close to him, along with strangers who followed his path, called out for answers, wanting reasons for what he'd done. Though a few saw how hard love could be when fame pressed in, most viewed the lies as something beyond pardon. Now each word, each plan, even old promises sat exposed, dissected by eyes that once smiled at him but today watched with doubt. Moving forward meant walking through whispers where applause used to live. Funny how life shifts when you least expect it. Gino had found something real with Natalie, a quiet kind of win after years of noise. Yet old paper trails began creeping back. Bills from forgotten months, signatures on documents he barely remembered signing. Each morning brought envelopes stamped urgent, summoning him to rooms full of strangers deciding pieces of his future. The weight didn't crush him, but it pressed close, especially during moments meant for laughter. A single choice rippled outward, touching places they never meant to reach. Though love shimmered bright, it offered no escape from what he had to carry. Jasmine looked for steadiness inside herself at the same time. Talking with a therapist helped, plus long talks with close friends, also quiet times alone thinking. Still, people's opinions pressed down on her. Matt breaking trust didn't help, neither did old wounds creeping back. Recovery crawled along because of it. A new headline here, a comment online there, they always brought back what slipped away, along with truths now too clear to ignore. One couple glowed with quiet joy, though tension never left their shoulders. Another found herself picking up pieces, eyes stinging from judgment, learning to believe again, not just in people, but in her own instincts. What began as whispers turned into something heavier, less about romance, more about how small decisions ripple outward, unseen. Lives bend under choices made behind closed doors, some spoken aloud, others buried too deep. Then came a twist nobody expected, sudden, jarring, enough to flip every assumption upside down. Out of silence rose the last act, tangled with second chances, truth finally spoken, moments that stitched old wounds into something different. After everything fell apart, lies, pain, broken trust, each person faced a choice. Not far from the wreckage, Gino and Natalie stayed close, holding on through crowds of judgment and old doubts. Their wedding words weren't just lines spoken, they acted like armor, guarding what once cracked under pressure. She stood by him without wavering, becoming the steady ground he never knew he lacked. Slowly, piece by piece, they shaped something real again, not only days together, but belief in us after hurt. Evenings lit by flame glow, whispers late at night, moments where joy slipped back in unnoticed, all of it whispered, "This time, you earned it." Still, joy never came without something harder tagging along. Not far behind his better days trailed old debts, court matters left hanging, people talking under their breaths. With Natalie close as though, the weight didn't feel quite so heavy. When things went wrong, and they did, he found ways through, not because it was easy but because giving up meant leaving her behind. Each fall turned into proof he could rise, especially when what held him upright wasn't pride but someone who chose to stay. What grew between them wasn't just affection, it carried grit, quiet repair, moments where starting over felt possible. Later on, if anyone asked how they made it, the answer wouldn't fit neatly, it simply took time, missteps included. After everything faded except truth, one thing remained, two people who kept showing up, again and again. Healing found Jasmine when she least expected it. Though Matt's lies cut deep, plus Gino's history lingered like old smoke, she wouldn't let sorrow shape her path. With each therapy session, moments of quiet thought, and late talks among friends, power seeped back into her voice. New chances for connection, faith, joy, these started appearing, fragile yet real, as she pieced life together, not fast, just steady. When Matt stepped ahead with Victoria, Jasmine's path revealed something quieter, how light finds its way through broken places. What she lived through began to matter more than words, it stood solid for anyone who saw it, showing clearly that falling apart won't stop a person from becoming whole again. Out of nowhere arrived the last turn, something nobody saw coming. While emotions ran wild between pain and second chances, Natalie dropped a truth that rattled fans hard, she carried a baby. That moment shifted everything. Not just about romance anymore, their journey now held weight, future, duty. Higher ground opened up where before there had only been passion. Gino started fresh, not just as a partner but shaped by the weight of becoming a dad. What hit people hardest wasn't the change itself, it was how fast emotions spread, lighting up feeds with raw reactions, guesses, and quiet well-wishes tossed into the digital wind. When the threads of their lives finally met, something stood out. Love shows up, not just in moments of joy but through broken promises too. Gino and Natalie stayed together even after everything cracked apart. Jasmine walked away bruised yet kept moving forward somehow. What changed was never obvious at first. Hidden truths came loose like knots unraveling on a worn rope. Each choice left marks. The path ahead bent when least expected. Their separate struggles echo in quiet ways afterward. Here's where it gets interesting. What's on your mind about what comes next? Maybe Gino steps up, maybe he doesn't. How does that sit with you? Think their bond holds strong through all of it, or cracks under pressure? Your take matters more than you might guess. Could Jasmine finally discover joy after facing endless lies? Your take matters. Drop it in the comments. If what happened left you stunned or moved, show it with a thumbs up. Stay tuned by subscribing and turning on alerts, because the next twist in 90 Day Fiancé might just outdo the last. What comes next may stretch beyond anything expected.